Have you ever wondered if the Bible is more than just a collection of ancient stories? Is it a book you can actually trust? For centuries, skeptics have questioned its reliability, dismissing it as myth. But what if I told you there's a mountain of evidence that scholars, even those who aren't believers, can't simply ignore? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of biblical archaeology and history to uncover the truth. We're not just talking about faith, we're talking about facts. So, stick around, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see this ancient book forever. Let's start with a big question. Can we trust the text we have today? The Bible was written thousands of years ago. How do we know it hasn't been changed, like a giant game of telephone over the centuries? This is where the science of textual criticism comes in. When scholars evaluate any ancient document, whether it's from Plato or Caesar, they ask two key questions. How many manuscript copies do we have? And how close are they to the original writing? For most classical works, like those of the Roman historian Tacitus, we might have a handful of manuscripts, with the earliest copy dating nearly 1,000 years after he wrote. Yet, historians overwhelmingly accept his writings as authentic. Now, let's compare that to the New Testament. We have over 24,000 manuscript copies or portions of copies in Greek, Latin, and other ancient languages. Some of these, like the John Rylands manuscript fragment, date to within just a few decades of the original writing. The sheer volume and early dating of these manuscripts are unparalleled in the ancient world. This massive collection allows scholars to cross-reference and verify the text with incredible accuracy, confirming that the New Testament we read today is virtually identical to what was originally written. But what about historical events and people mentioned in the Bible? Let's travel back in time to the world of the Old Testament. For a long time, critics claimed that many figures and civilizations mentioned in the early books of the Bible were pure fiction because there was no outside proof. One classic example is the Hittite Empire. For years, skeptics pointed to the Hittites as a biblical invention. Then, in the early 20th century, archaeologists in modern-day Turkey unearthed the ruins of a massive, forgotten city, Hattusa, the capital of the great Hittite Empire. They found thousands of clay tablets detailing their laws, history, and treaties, confirming the biblical account of a major power that had been lost to history. This isn't an isolated incident. Think about King David. For a long time, there was no archaeological evidence for his existence outside the Bible. Critics argued he was a mythical hero, like King Arthur. Then, in 1993, a groundbreaking discovery was made at Tel Dan in northern Israel. Archaeologists found a stone inscription, a victory monument from an enemy king, that clearly mentioned the House of David. This was the first time David's name was found in the archaeological record outside the biblical text. It was a stunning confirmation, an external voice from the past affirming the reality of Israel's most famous king and his dynasty. Let's move to the New Testament. Luke, the author of the Gospel of Luke and the Book of Acts, is often praised by historians for his meticulous detail. He names specific governors, tetrarchs, and local officials, and describes specific routes and customs. For example, in Acts, he refers to the rulers of Thessalonica as politarchs. For a long time, this word was found nowhere else in Greek literature, and critics claimed Luke had made it up. Then, archaeologists found over 30 inscriptions in the region of ancient Thessalonica that used this exact, rare title, confirming Luke's precise and localized knowledge. It's like finding a 2,000-year-old document that uses a very specific local slang term, proving the author was really there. Another fascinating piece of evidence is the Pool of Bethesda, described in the Gospel of John, chapter 5. John provides a very specific description, a pool near the Sheep Gate in Jerusalem with 5 covered colonnades. For centuries, there was no trace of such a place, and many assumed it was a symbolic or fictional setting. Then, in the 19th century, archaeologists excavating near the Church of St. and in Jerusalem discovered the remains of a pool. Further excavation revealed a rectangular pool with 2 basins separated by a central wall, creating exactly 5 colonnades or covered porches, just as John had described. They found a place that had been buried and forgotten for nearly 2,000 years, preserved under the rubble of history, matching the biblical account perfectly. And what about the central figures? Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor who oversaw the trial of Jesus, was another figure some scholars were skeptical about. Was he a real historical person? In 1961, archaeologists working at the ancient city of Caesarea Maritima, the Roman capital of Judea, found a limestone block. It had been reused in a later structure, but on it was an inscription. The Latin text clearly read that Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea, had dedicated a temple to the Emperor Tiberius. This Pilate stone was the first archaeological find to name him, providing solid, external evidence for his role in history, exactly as the Gospels portray. Even smaller details hold up to scrutiny. The Gospels mention crucifixion, a brutal Roman method of execution. Historical sources like Josephus and Tacitus confirm this was a common practice used by the Romans, especially in Judea. In 1968, a burial cave was discovered in Jerusalem containing the remains of a man named Jehohanan who had been crucified in the 1st century. An iron spike was still driven through his heel bone, a chilling, tangible confirmation of the reality of this practice described in the biblical narrative. Now, why does any of this matter? It matters because the Bible doesn't present itself as a fairy tale. It grounds its claims in real history, in real places, with real people. It invites scrutiny. The Apostle Peter wrote, "We did not follow cleverly devised stories when we told you about the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ in power, but we were eyewitnesses of his majesty." The authors of the New Testament were adamant that they were reporting what they had seen and heard. When we see archaeology and historical records consistently affirming the details of the biblical text, from obscure political titles to the existence of kings, from forgotten empires to the layout of ancient pools, it builds a powerful case for its reliability. It shows us that the biblical writers were not just making things up. They were recording history as they knew it. This incredible accuracy in the historical details gives us a reason to trust the Bible when it speaks about things we see and prove with a shovel or a stone inscription. If the authors were so careful and honest about the things that can be verified, doesn't it make sense to listen to what they have to say about the things that ain't? The message of the Bible is about God's love, about our purpose, and about the hope of redemption through Jesus Christ. The historical foundation isn't the whole story, but it's the solid ground on which that story stands. The evidence doesn't force anyone to believe, but it does challenge us to take the Bible seriously. It's not a book to be casually dismissed. It's a historically anchored document that has withstood centuries of intense examination. We've only scratched the surface today. There are so many more discoveries we could talk about, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, which showed the remarkable preservation of the Old Testament text over 1,000 years. The evidence is vast and compelling. If this journey into the historical truth of the Bible has sparked something in you, if you're feeling a pull to explore this further, then I want to personally invite you to become part of our family here at Eternal Truths. This is a place where we ask the tough questions and seek honest answers. We believe that faith and reason go hand in hand. By subscribing to our channel, you'll stay connected and get more content just like this, helping you build a faith that is not just felt in the heart, but also understood in the mind. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We're on this journey of discovery together, and we're so glad you're here. Thank you for watching.